Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this IOSH regional event on nanotechnology. Also welcome different branch members from other networks outside of the southern region. I only have two names to introduce today. Firstly, myself. My name is James, and I am the chairman of IOSH Southwest. And secondly, we have Simon Mercer, who will be presenting the updates this afternoon. The webinar, as like most Zoom calls, will last approximately 45 minutes. We'll try and give at least 10 or 15 minutes at the end for questions. As you were reminded in the housekeeping rules there, during the Q&A session, you will see a poll pop up. So please fill this out because it is quite important to us. For those of you who ask a question and it doesn't get answers or we run out of time, provided they are not rhetorical questions, Simon will be happy to answer these questions direct. You will note on the very last slide of this presentation, Simon's email will come up. Please take note of that if your question doesn't get answered or you want to approach Simon direct. This webinar will be recorded and posted on the IOSH website for future reference. So let's crack straight on. I would now like to introduce you to Simon, who will take it away. Simon, if you can start your video and unmute, it is over to you.
That's great, James. Thank you very much for the introduction, and good afternoon, everybody, from a not so sunny Shropshire. Very pleased to be with you. And I'd like to introduce the webinar, which will cover the role of nanotechnology and self-disinfection within the cleaning industry. As James said, I'm Simon Mercer, and I'm director at Signo-Nanocare Limited. So just to set the scene somewhat, who are we and what do we do? We are Nanocare UK, part of the Nanocare AG group based in Germany. So we are a joint venture with that company based near Saarbrücken. We're trading as Signo-Nanocare UK Limited. So what do? We're specialists in the development and manufacturing of nanoscale liquid protective coatings. And we use nanoscale silicon dioxide as our main active ingredient, chemically known as SiO2, commonly known as quartz or sand. Incidentally, that should not be confused or mixed with silicone, which of course is an oil-based man-made compound. Very important not to mix the two. And we as a company are independently ranked in the world's top 10 by industry commentators. So that question that would be a grand cure for insomnia, perhaps, what is nanotechnology? It's been around for a while. Many of us are fully understanding that it's essentially describing the use of incredibly small molecular structures which are used in products and processes. And nowadays that's across a whole range of industries, and it really does, in its broad sense, create a very large range of benefits and attributes, and it's replacing traditional products, it's replacing traditional processes. And I just want to set the scene in terms of that the scale of nanotechnology, and just give a couple of definitions. So 1 micron is 0.001 of a mil. 1 nanometer, however, is 1 billionth of a meter. And we work with molecules of approximately 100 to 150 nanometers, generally around 120 nanometers. So actually, I just need to go to the previous slide. Sorry about that. Yeah, what we're going to do with the next 3 visuals on the left-hand side, actually, what I'm intending to do, as a picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say, is just to give you a feel for our brand of nanotechnology and give you a good sort of fundamental view of physically how it works. what we're looking at here is a piece of polished stoneware. It's actually a micropore of a polished surface. And just to give an idea of the scale, so here we're looking at 5 microns. So this is incredibly large scale of 5 microns, a couple of hundred of those in 1 millimeter. And what we're looking at is an extremely jagged surface, quite surprising for a smooth granite-like surface, if you like. This is what it looks like in close. And you can see jagged edges. You can quite easily imagine that any dirt or contamination landing on that surface is not going to find it so easy to dispatch it or detach itself again. So then this image is, as you might guess, clearly showing the coating of SiO2 in which we specialize. So we've coated this micropore. It's the same micropore. And let's look closely at what happened. You might think of the coating putting a sort of monolithic block of protective material over a surface. Well, you can see here, our technology is about actually changing the surface, not putting a thick layer of protective product on top of it, so that the material isn't filling the micropore, and as such, it's not. I'm going to just get rid of my picture, that's much better. The coating is essentially protecting the minuscule nanostructures. So those nanostructures, the really sharp edges that we saw previously, they've been smoothed out. When that happens, when you create, effectively you're creating a non-stick surface, and we describe that, or a surface is described as low energy. And think of that in terms of not much energy needed to release contamination from that surface. So then if you compare the two, it becomes much more apparent. Even though on the right where we've coated it, it's not totally smooth, it's not a complete ice rink as it were, but in comparison with that lunar landscape on the left, you might be able to imagine that the right hand side, with its repellents, with the changing of that surface, is going to be giving performance enhancements, which we'll get into in detail in terms of perpetual maintenance costs and other attributes. So nanotechnology is not new. We've been here for a little while. We've been around the block, as it were, and we can't anymore be considered as new kids on the block, certainly in terms of the coating industry. But broadly speaking, nano and nanoscience is being so broadly used now. It's a common reference. But in terms of our history, Nanocare AG, so Nanocare in Germany, was established in the year 2000. It came from it was a spin-off from the Leibniz Institute of Advanced Materials. Then in 2005, we set up in the UK. Primarily in early doors, we were supplying product into glass equipment companies, but we had a range of commercially available products. In fact, one of the early products that we put into a consumer format was Shower Guard, which is still available to this day and went into Lakeland and is still retailed by a lot of online bathroom retailers. In 2015, we had an important product development in the form of nanoceramic, which was particularly developed for automotive sectors, building sectors. So we supply nanoceramics to quartz materials being manufactured in China. If you pitch up to pick up your new vehicle and the showroom is looking to take a few hundred extra pounds from you for a paint protection and specifically a nano paint protection, it may be ours. Then much more recently, just last year, a big step in terms of the introduction of an antimicrobial performing coating. It was certified tested and launched at the back end of last year. And of course, we'll go into much more detail on that. But just to mention, it picked up the German Innovation Award at that time. So, just to summarize, coatings before the most recent introduction, before that most recent antimicrobial introduction. As I said, glass coatings we're well known for, and they give an easy clean protection for glass and polished porcelain with an ultra hydrophobic film. They prevent the buildup of limescale, soap scum, for instance, and generally speaking, they make surfaces easy clean. Other references to pick out some more interesting ones: we've supplied product to go on to vases for M&S to make them algae release, as it were, so that you can finger remove any green algae buildup. We supply branded roof glass manufacturers with permanent bond easy clean, as we do shower manufacturers. And actually in that category, we are able, because of the durability of the glass coatings, we're able to offer lifetime warranties, obviously dependent on the lifetime claims of that particular manufacturer, but just to give you some idea of the durability of the permanent bond. Dura and Sapphire are within that nanoceramic category. They are scratch resistant and resistant to strong chemicals and solvents, and provide a very high level of weathering protection, as well as anti-fingerprint performance too. We have water-based products in FlexiGuard and GraffitiGuard, which are for porous mineral substrates. So they'll be used on building exteriors to reduce the buildup of moss and algae, for instance, and prevent water ingress. And then we have a whole range of textile effect coatings, which are both automatically and manually applied. So, having described that technology, the silicon dioxide easy clean technology, we had been thinking for a number of years before the introduction of the antimicrobial range that it would be a really good idea if we could introduce an antimicrobial solution combined with that silicon dioxide technology. So in order for us to provide that kind of long-term protection, we had to start out on a consideration and experimentation on the most appropriate antimicrobial active ingredients. And after trial and error, we looked at silver technology, silver ion technology, and had interesting and sometimes quite volatile experimentation on the way. But after some years, we concluded that ammonium chloride was the most appropriate for us to use. This is an antimicrobial that's been around for quite some time and is used across a range of industries. So this was a very important moment for us, combining long-term repellent, let's say easy clean repellent technology, and introducing an antimicrobial which we will be able to promote as long-lasting, and in that sense be unique in the industry in terms of marketing something which mirrored the sort of longevity as our standard range of products. And that product is called LiquidGuard. So let's just go on to have a closer look at the conditions in the market, really, which had led us to believe pre-pandemic that this was a good move for us. So we'd done research, because this is a concept which was going to take marketing, and we were going to need to understand the sectors where we were best to launch it. So the kind of market information gathering we were doing was including some pretty grim facts, including the fact that, for instance, research taking place showing that on an office phone, 25,000 germs per square inch are quite feasible in some workplaces. The typical office worker will come into contact with 10 million forms of bacteria a day. An office desk has been found in research to be 400 times dirtier than a toilet seat. We're aware that E. coli, MRSA, staph and strep are commonly around us in the workplace, and we've all heard of outbreaks of particularly MRSA, E. coli, not only in healthcare but also in food outlets. The fact that keyboards can also apparently carry 70% more bacteria than a toilet. And last but certainly not least, 61% of UK office workers don't wash their hands after going to the toilet. So 61% of UK office workers wash their hands after going to the toilet, which means that you hope profoundly that none of the other 39% ask to borrow your pen. So, into LiquidGuard and how it performs. How does it work? How does the ammonium chloride I referred to figure in all of this? So here we're looking at a LiquidGuard coated surface, and with the ammonium chloride active ingredient represented by these swords here, we have a positively charged surface. And then looking above at these pathogens, this is a whole load of microbes, including potentially bacteria, viral deposits, and these are negatively charged. So the positively charged surface attracts the negatively charged pathogens. When they hit the surface, there is a puncturing. There is a physical puncturing of those pathogens, of those cells, and subsequently they are totally ruptured. And so we talk and refer to a full physical kill of the cell membrane. Now, what does that deliver? And in this slide, we want to be thinking about what we're seeing on the right-hand side here, which is the concept of hand surface hand infection. So the concept of picking up and transfer of infection from surfaces, which has been well documented in recent times. So LiquidGuard is giving a unique combination. It's a permanent bond, antibac, antiviral, applied very, very simply. We'll go on to application a bit later, but this is a spray and wipe action. It provides a year-long full kill against a listed 35 bacteria. So that is the bacteria that we're certified as being effective against. In fact, there aren't any bacteria which we have tested that it's not effective against. Effective against envelope viruses, including influenza A and coronaviruses, those being TGV coronavirus and feline coronavirus, 26 fungi, 8 algae, 2 yeasts. And this is a link which you'll all obviously have afterwards to click through to the full kill list. We think it very important to put up online any performance claims which we refer to. And in terms of the bacteria we were referring to on the last couple of slides, MRSA, E. coli, Salmonella, staph, strep, and Listeria are included in that lineup of effectiveness. Now, the really important consideration here is one of prevention of cell mutation due to the physical nature of the kill. And if we're talking about the relevance of that in terms of let's say, normal or almost regular disinfection protocols. That's incredibly important in terms of the current resistance to bacteria and microbes that has been growing over the years. So, in essence, LiquidGuard is contributing to and aiming to play a part in breaking the hand infection cycle. Onto that closer look at disinfection, and this is a really important slide actually in terms of the part that LiquidGuard will play as part of a disinfection protocol. So on the left here, the graph shows colony forming units on the left-hand x-axis scale here, and in any normal protocol, cleaning protocol, of course, you will have an exponential growth of microbial activity on a surface to the point where you disinfect, and so on. Now, that is assuming that you have the correct level of disinfection, i.e. the correct product, you have the correct concentration of that product, you have the correct technique in terms of its application and usage, and you have the adequate dwell time for whatever cleaning product is being used. Now, unfortunately, that is quite often not the case, that those things coincide, and so one can therefore reflect upon the fact that when those conditions are not right, there is an increasing amount of potential colony forming unit activity, which would be well above this point here, which is achieved at disinfection. So on the right hand side here, we have LiquidGuard added to that disinfection protocol with hopefully a significant impact. So yes, part of the cleaning regime, but in terms of that constant background full kill, LiquidGuard is going to give you some significant benefits in terms of the CFU buildup, and its reduction is laboratory and field tested to 99.999%, so 3 log. Okay, so we've claimed we have a long-term antimicrobial coating. We've talked about our technology, and we produce some glossy pictures to illustrate it, but how can we prove it? How can we prove that this is not too good to be true? We want to dispel any thoughts around the emperor's new clothes concept. So it's essential, therefore, that we show independent testing to prove effectiveness. Of course, we have to do that, and ISO 21702 is for a viral reduction test, where you have a coated test plate. The viral solution is applied to the test plate, and the time measured for the microbial activity, the viral activity, to be eradicated. So we're certified to that. And then beyond that, beyond the point where you've proven effectiveness, all very well, but then what about 2-3 years time? Now the coating may still be there. How do you know that the effectiveness, the antimicrobial effectiveness, is still there? So we have independent weathering testing as well, to ISO 11507, which is UV, amongst which there is UV lamp testing and abrasion testing, and then separate to the weathering testing from the outset, we have abrasion resistance to 11998. This involves a microbial wipe, cloth. It's a cloth wipe test, which, as you can see on glass and ceramics, achieves 40,000 cycles, on noble metals 20,000 cycles, and on plastics 5,000 cycles. Now on the 5,000 cycle figure, just to put the year-long performance claim in some context, if you imagine wiping a plastic surface with a microfiber cloth, is the word I was looking for. Wipe a plastic surface with a microfiber cloth, say 10 times a day, and in a year you've then got 3,650 wipes. So that's well within this 5,000 wipe cycle. So that's a rule of thumb. It's not everything behind the science for our claims on a year-long performance, but that gives you an indication that if we're claiming a year when you know, even on a plastic you have a 5,000 cycle resistance, then on a glass or ceramic the performance is likely to be much longer than a year, depending on the level of abrasion, of course, but broadly speaking. Okay, buyer beware. There are products in the market which are claiming durability. That there have been some infamous cases which reflect badly on our sector of products which have claimed longer term performance, and they've been handed out of town by trading standards, which is not at all helpful. So we'd simply recommend, when considering the market, when looking for solutions, always look for independent verification. We had a customer who's just taken Liquid Guard, and they made us aware that their competitor was claiming all kinds of COVID-19 performance, and they were a bit worried. Could we have a look at what they were claiming? Indeed, we did. And on their competitor's website, there was a statement which said, all test results, certifications and claims are those applied for or of the manufacturer. So what they're saying is they've either applied for them or their claims made by the manufacturer. Okay, we nip on and have a look at what the manufacturer is stating. And these are taken from publicly available literature and website information. And that manufacturer stated photocatalytic coatings similar to LumiClean have been shown to destroy a wide variety of viruses and pathogens, including human coronavirus. So that was the sum total of the worry or the concern that our customer had. It is essentially led back to a manufacturer simply saying some photocatalytic coatings similar to the one we've got have been shown to destroy a wide variety of viruses and pathogens. So not a test claim in sight, and a lot of hot air, essentially. In that situation, something's up. So our simple advice is research at all costs. Then ongoing verification in the field. Now, I'm going to refer here to ATP testing, which is a simple and effective measure of microbial activity, effectively measuring cleanliness. And I would imagine many people listening are familiar with that technique. Happy to give much more detail on that separately if not, but it's a mechanism, a test method whereby swab tests are taken and the RLU, relative light units of ATP, are measured. Anything above 100 is considered not particularly clean in most working environments, but in the food sector, certainly under 50 is where you'll achieve an acceptable level. I believe between 30 and 50 at the light unit readings, where the higher you go, the worse it is. So this is an example of a customer of ours, various items, untreated, here are the readings, treated, here are the significantly lower either pass or caution readings. Actually, caution at 55, in most working conditions would be considered to be highly acceptable. So there is ATP testing, there is dip tube testing, and there are cheaper protein indicators which are used depending on the situation to verify ongoing performance. So the application, this is a quick slide because it's extremely quick. The product consists of 2 parts. There's step 1, cleaner and primer. Step 2, antimicrobial coating. Step 3 is you leave it for 6 hours. So you simply spray and wipe with the microfiber cloths. And so part 1, spray and wipe around. Leave for a couple of minutes. Part 2, apply the antimicrobial coating, spray and polish in, and leave it for 6 hours. You can do this and achieve this through electrostatic fogging, a misting, or by a range of handheld spraying options. We work with approved contractors, some of them not approved, who apply on a large scale to commercial office sectors, but equally we supply in 1 litre bottles with trigger sprays for the customer to apply themselves. So it's very straightforward, as with anything, you know, on any large commercial area. Most of the work's in the prep, but there is no need for any extraordinary preparation before the 2 steps I've described here. This is an image just to show you some more electron microscope images of Liquigard in action, as it were. So here on the left, that's E. coli thriving on an untreated surface, an untreated fibre, and on the right you can see the ruptured. You can actually tell the ruptured or residue of the ruptured cells. So more examples of references. We've worked with a number of notable brands and venues. In fact, you know, as a manufacturer supplying through various supply channels, we don't get to hear about every venue, but anyway, it's important for us to take a selection of them, of course. And so, for instance, interesting case at Burnley Football Club, where actually their interest obviously is in protecting highly valuable collection of football players and keeping them healthy and infection free. So their interest in Liquigard was beyond COVID, but very much for the long term, in terms of ensuring a contribution to reduction in infection transfer within training, changing and preparation areas. Of course, hotels, these were extensive application before the original get-go after the first lockdown, more so with Best Western, G4S, as I've mentioned, Institute for Contemporary Art in London, and plenty of airport activity. The list is extensive now. And yeah, and in fact, in the last weeks, in fact, there have been a number of schools, both in the public and state sector, carrying out extensive work both in London and around the country. So in terms of product availability, we supply a minimum order of 1 litre. 1 litre is going to cover about 125 square meters. So we have 1s, 5s, 20s. We'll even sell you 200 if required. We're not shy. And also there is a kit format. So, and this is obviously for retail purposes, but equally, you know, it could be interesting for entities, organizations where perhaps the work zone, the office desk and area that people are going to have most direct contact with is important, but you might want that employee to be able to apply the product to vehicle and all high touch surfaces on the way home, as it were. In terms of purchasing and how one would place an order, that's either through email directly to us, and as of Monday, the shop is back up. It's having some technical work done on it today as it happens, but that will be back live on Monday. To be quite frank with you, I have no idea how long that's taken. It feels as though I've rattled through it a bit, and there were a number of slides which I'm quite happy to dive back into should any questions that arise cause me to need to do that. So for the moment, thank you very much. I look forward to receiving questions, and I'm going to look at my watch now. It's 9 minutes past 1, so I think I've been just about on 40 minutes there, James.
Perfect. Simon, thank you very much. If you can stop presenting, that would be ideal. Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. Slightly concerned that my keyboard might have 70% more bacteria than a toilet seat. I will be giving that to you for sure. So for those of you that haven't already, you will note a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please ask any questions that you might have, Simon. Simon, I'll go through a lot of Q&A coming in already, so I'll go through the ones that are very similar here. One from Paul and from Michael, claiming that some architects will claim that nano coatings avoid the need to access glass for cleaning. A similar one from Paul is saying, in the same light, is LiquidGuard an acceptable alternative to regular cleaning, particularly the need for regular cleaning of touch points and communal areas, or does this form part of a normal cleaning routine?
Okay, so James, so that question has two parts to it, does it? The first part is concerning can nano coatings reduce the need for cleaning on architectural surfaces,
yes,
and then subsequently, yeah. Okay, very good question, and it's a very important area to consider. Let's take, broadly speaking, let's take our standard easy clean performance, broadly speaking, and if considering glass, as you specifically mentioned it, we would claim that there is a reduction in the need for cleaning, let's say on external glass, by up to 70%. So in that context, if you have an external glass roof, for instance, your cleaning frequency would be reduced. So depending on what that cleaning pattern was, let's say if it was normally once a month, you would expect that to be extended to perhaps to once every 7 weeks. So that's the kind of indication you give in terms of the reduction in the need for cleaning, and therefore the reduction in the need for perpetual maintenance costs. In terms of LiquidGuard and its role in the cleaning protocol, we advise that it should remain part of the cleaning protocol. Now, of course, if we're considering the range of activity from the cleaning of a sort of infrequently used kitchen worktop in a two-man office, which might receive a wipe down with a hot damp cloth every day, then with LiquidGuard as a backdrop, giving a constant antimicrobial reduction, you would I think expect simply to carry on with that simple hot cloth cleaning. If you're in a busy office sector where you have thousands of people passing through a touch plate on some double doors, then in that situation the normal cleaning routine must continue, because LiquidGuard is a constant backdrop, but it's not giving, in terms of the antimicrobial activity, it is not giving an instant obliteration of all microbes at one time. So in terms of the recommendation, we say that, okay, this is going to reduce your need for, it's going to reduce the need for fogging and moment in time sanitation. There's been an awful lot of activity in the market with spurious claims around fogging products which are literally fogged and left. Now those products, if they're alcohol based, they might be giving a moment in time elimination of certain viruses and bacteria, but it is just a moment in time elimination. So what we recommend is that with LiquidGuard in place, continue your normal cleaning protocol, but at the end of the day, there is no need, or at the end of the week, there is no need to have a contractor come in at an exorbitant cost and fog your building simply to bring the level of antimicrobial activity down for a very short period in time. So you are reducing the extraordinary fogging and sanitizing costs, which seem to be common these days, and which are actually, causing, obviously, care and cleanliness is the #1 concern, but to achieve that, to know that, let's say, within short periods of time after the previous touch, that LiquidGuard will be greatly reducing antimicrobial activity, and certainly at the end of the day, before people return to work the next morning, that work will have been comprehensively carried out by LiquidGuard.
Sure. Okay. Another question from Stephen here. Are there any known short or long-term health effects associated with the application of the product during its application and then while it's on the surface?
Okay, great question. Thanks very much. The short answer is no, and I can affirm that by giving you the description of the product, which is, broadly speaking, water-based. There is a less than 3% solvent ingredient in the product in terms of its solution. It is not, there is nothing which is bioaccumulative in the antibacterial element of the product, and as such, it's extremely user-friendly. So there are no noxious fumes. There is no need for safety PPE. Of course, with any coating product, you recommend gloves, and if you were misting the product, then you would use a mask. But otherwise, if you're simply using a trigger spray and microfiber cloths, there's no reason to wear face gear.
Sure.
And in terms of the ongoing performance, there is an inert bond of the coating to the surface. So in that sense, no, there is no subsequent leaching or danger to any kind of exposure to the active ingredients themselves become inert. So no, there are no dangers.
Okay, Grant.
I should add the only hazard associated with LiquidGuard is that it's not to be is an aquatic life symbol. So you're not to put it, as with any antimicrobial, you don't put it in the water course, but that's a common hazard. Yeah.
Sure. A question from Mark, just probably referencing your picture of the negatively charged surface. He says, are all microbes negatively charged or some positive? There's some surfaces that it just won't bond to, I think you're saying.
Well, there would be, in terms of surfaces that the product won't bond to, there is variation, but the positive negative attraction holds. In terms of the ease of bonding, there is a great variance, and it's quite an achievement to have a coating which we can promote as being applicable to such a broad range of materials. So for instance, you know, the repellent qualities of chrome will mean, the chrome finish, for instance, will mean that that attraction will be far less effective than on a range of other surfaces. But yeah, so the the attraction will and the strength of bond will vary according to substrate, but that's what we try to illustrate with the abrasion resistance figures.
Perfect. Okay. So another one. Just go in the order that they're coming through here. Maybe a technical question here. Somebody's noted that the product has been tested to EN 21702, the bacteria tests. Has the product been tested to EN 14476, which is viral testing rather than bacterial testing?
21702 is viral testing, actually. Yeah, that 21702 is a viral test. And
so you may have got the references the wrong way around. Yeah,
and the what was the other one?
14476. That must be the bacterial testing.
Well, 14476 is a test of a bacterial solution, so that wouldn't be applicable to this product, because you'd use that test if you were taking a litre of disinfectant and testing its effectiveness against bacteria or viruses. So that's a suspension test, not a surface test. So the 21702 is a surface test, and because we're not a liquid disinfectant, we're a surface coating, so therefore 21702 is appropriate to a coating. The other test you mentioned is appropriate to a solution.
Okay, perfect. One more here from Paul. Quite a lot of questions coming in, actually. Can you give an indication of how quickly the liquid guard works, on how long should it be left between, say, on a keyboard when it's applied and to when it becomes effective and safe for use?
Very good. Yeah, good question. It's 6 hours effectively. So you would approach the keyboard, and assuming it's not you know, caked with you know, record-breaking levels of dirt and contaminations, you would use the cleaner and primer to wipe, and literally in a normal cleaning motion. You'd then wait within a minute or so for that evaporation to take place, and then you would apply the coating. And from the point where you've done the final wipe of coating, leave it 6 hours, and then it will be fully cured. Okay. And so, but I mean, the antimicrobial activity begins during that curing process. But what we're saying is it's not reached its peak until 6 hours. In fact, technically, there's no reason why you can't move an object around, or actually to the touch, it would feel dried and cured. It's not wet during that period. It's simply curing. It's air curing, and the cross-linking between the antimicrobial element and the surface is taking place, and it's sound after 6 hours. Okay, great.
So a question from Colin: to what degree is the barrier effectiveness reduced by physical and chemical aggressive environments? Oh, what he's asking really is the cleaning regime we talked about yesterday. Is there any particular type of cleaning or environments that will impair the lifeline or the product effectiveness?
Yeah, yes, there is. We recommend that all cleaning products should be between 4 and 9 pH. That means that you would not use strongly acidic cleaners, nor would you use strongly alkaline cleaners. Obviously, strongly alkaline cleaners are bleach at, you know, pH 13, you know, commercial drain cleaner, pH 13, that sort of product. So you're looking at, because Liquid Guard has a built-in repellency, it's an easy clean coating in itself, and it does have some scratch resistance too. So you are looking to use essentially mild surface cleaners, and that's all you need to use. And that's one of the inherent benefits, in that you don't need to use harsh cleaners. But if you, LiquidGuard is solvent resistant, but those are our safe parameters between 4 and 9. In actual fact, it's outside our recommendation, but if you used a one at 10, it's not going to go anywhere. But our firm recommendation is use one between a cleaner between 4 and 9.
Okay, perfect. A question from Richard here, asking more of an aesthetics question. And when you put this product on a surface, would it dull or impair the appearance of the product by applying it?
I'm really glad that question has been asked, because I probably omitted that from the presentation. So well done, thank you. No, essentially, it's an invisible coating, which is why we make that reference to, well, how do we know it's there, sort of thing. But no, if anything, let's say on a glass surface, the only thing that you will see is a sort of an embellishment, just as if you've got a really clean piece of sort of embellished glass. In fact, we were doing application at a glass manufacturer who will be using it as part of their processing, and you just to see it just leaves an incredibly clean looking surface. I think the only time you might see a marginal darkening would be say on a roughish dark plastic surface. You might see, a couple of degrees, but to give an example, yeah, we worked with a screen manufacturer who applied 15 coatings of the product to one half of the screen, and they couldn't tell which side was coated and which wasn't.
Perfect. Okay, a question from Gillian here. Has there been any take up of this by sort of NHS and care homes where you think they'd want to jump on?
That's a very, very good question. Yeah, certainly in care homes. In terms of the NHS, we consider that it's a long-term goal of ours. Now, I'll be quite frank, getting anything into the NHS is like walking through treacle. In the last 9 months, we've made, considering that at the beginning of this year, pre-pandemic, we had put the product into Lakeland in the form of a kit called Bathroom Wipeout, which was focused as antibacterial for areas that matter most, i.e. the bathroom. And now, of course, the market has just expanded exponentially, obviously, with the pandemic. So it is our there is a build of activity towards getting it into NHS facilities, and we have had very positive, and we have very positive ongoing discussions there. But in terms of their use of antiviral cleaning products at the moment, it's to get anything approved by an NHS trust, it has to go through a massive amount of trialing and testing. And so I can't go into any real detail about where we are on that, but we hope that given we're sort of only we're within the first year of, or coming towards the end of the first year of the product's launch here in the UK, we hope by the end of the second year we'll have quite a good number of NHS references.
Perfect. Interestingly, a Brexit question here. Are you prepared for Brexit? Is it the availability of this product outside of the UK?
Well, we are prepared for Brexit. I was talking with my German colleagues the other day, because essentially what we do here in the UK is we mix the product and we put it into all kinds of different formats. We take active ingredients from overseas, and the access of those active ingredients and those raw materials is will be unhindered. They're not on any exclusive list. So yeah, fingers crossed, but all good, thanks. Yeah.
We're running into our last 2 minutes here, so possibly try and get a very last short question in here. Is the product food safe? Somebody is asking.
Okay.
So can you put lunch on the surface and eat?
Okay. That's a good question. It is not technically food safe, and I'll give an explanation for that. Because if you're using a biocide of any sort, because biocides are used in solutions, and for instance, if you used a disinfectant on the surface with a biocide on it, and it was on a food area, on a plate, you would need to remove that before you ate from it. So hence, because biocides, generally speaking, are not given food safe status, even though we are bonding that biocide to a surface and it becomes inert. So I might personally be happy to do so, but to eat from a food surface, but we have to state that it's not food safe, but you can use it on areas in the kitchen where you're not preparing food. So you can use it on handles of fridges, worktops where you haven't got direct contact with food. Just don't use it on plates, don't use it on chopping boards. So there is again, we are tied to rules and regs on a solution that would traditionally hold antimicrobial or biocide-based products.
Sure. Okay. We have reached the 1 hour point, unfortunately, for those of you who are still typing questions, and there are a number of questions gone unanswered. So I'd like to end the session by thanking Simon very much for the presentation. For those of you who haven't had your questions answered directly, Simon is happy to answer those direct. If you did manage to get a copy of his email on his last slide, please email him direct. But if you didn't, please contact IOSH Southwest direct, and we will point you in the right direction to Simon. So a copy of this presentation will be available along with a copy of the slides for those of you who are wondering. But for now, hitting the 1 hour point on the mark, I'd like to thank Simon again and all of those of you who attended, and good afternoon to you all.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.